The Germans who came to the Texas Hill Country prior to the Civil War were escaping European monarchies. They were also opposed to slavery. By 1850, nearly 5% of Texans were German immigrants. So, when Texas voted to secede in 1861, the Germans tried to maintain loyalty to the Union. All men over the age of 16 were required to register and pledge loyalty to the Confederacy. Many of the Germans had fled conscription in Europe. They didn't come here to face the kind of government they had left. Anyone who did not join the Confederacy was considered an outlaw. The Loyalists and their families were terrorized by Captain James Duff. He was the Colonel Chivington of the Hill Country. His partisan Rangers declared martial law. It was reported by witnesses that many Germans were killed who were viewed as Unionist. Farms were destroyed, families terrorized, and men murdered. Many of the Germans were driven out of Texas. Dead Man's Hole, located in southern Burnett County, became the source of legend, probably based at least partly on fact. Once the gases that originally emanated from the hole had dissipated, exploration found the bones of several people. Contemporary stories, and those handed down by family, tell of Union Loyalists being killed and dumped in the hole, or hung from the branch directly above it and dropped into the hole. We will never know exactly how many bodies found their grave in the hole, or exactly who they were and how they got there. Many Germans, in fear for their life, hid out or tried to escape. One such party, made up of about 70 Union Loyalists, mostly Germans, led by Fritz Tegener, left for Mexico on August 1, 1862. Captain Duff ordered troops to follow the Loyalists from the Hill Country, and his orders were to take no prisoners. He sent 96 men from Duff's partisan Rangers, the 2nd Texas Mounted Rifles, and the 8th Texas Cavalry under the command of 1st Lieutenant Colin McRae. The result was what became known as the Battle of the Nueces, or the Nueces Massacre, depending on who was telling the story. The site today, as it did then, presents a pastoral landscape. A shallow river ford crosses calm, clear water, belying the bloody massacre of 160 years ago, when the quiet night was interrupted with gunfire and the screams of men and horses in protest of gunfire and carnage. The Confederate militia caught up with the Loyalists while they were camped by the river. When the gruesome battle was over, 19 dissenters were dead, 15 were injured. Of those 15, 9 were shot. The bodies were left to rot in the sun. When the Civil War was over, Fritz Tegener, who had escaped the battle to join Union forces, returned to gather the remains of the dead. He took the bones back to Comfort, where a ceremony was held and a monument erected. The procession of 300 people, headed by the fathers of 4 of the victims, old men of 60 and 70 years, preceded the funeral car, drawn by 4 white horses. Under the Union banner lay the remains. A detachment of Federal troops accompanied the cortege. At the grave, E. Degener, father of 2 victims, pronounced an oration which brought tears of grief to the eyes of the mourners. He concluded thus: "The sacrifice that we, the fathers of the slaughtered, made to our country and to liberty is great and dolorous. We shall, however, console ourselves. We shall be proud of having offered our sons to the Union if the glorious victory of its arms bear all the fruits that the nation and the whole of humanity justly expect to reap." The Federal troops fired a salute over the grave. The little remote site where they rest must be to the nation as sacred as those places where thousands are deposited. Small in number, far away from the patriotic heart and the strong arm of the loyal North, surrounded by fierce enemies of the Union, these brave and devoted Germans offered their lives. The memorial is listed in the National Register of Historic Places is a Texas State Historic Landmark and a Texas State Archaeological Landmark.